15th is a 2-day program, and we have invited Professor Tariq Ramadan from Switzerland to speak on Islamic revivalism. And tomorrow, he will also deliver a lecture on the late Muhammad Asad. And we also have an exhibition on Muhammad Asad. It's being presented to you in cooperation with Islamic Book Trust. I would just like to introduce to you this new group called Islamic Renaissance Front, which is a youth empowerment group which focuses on the empowerment of youth through knowledge and promotion of intellectual discourse among Muslim youths. Among its objectives is to conduct and promote studies and research in Islam relevant to the cultural, educational, and scientific problems encountered by Muslims in the present age. It also aims to provide an Islamic response to the intellectual and cultural challenges of the modern world and various schools of thought, religion, and ideology. It aims to also hold conferences and meetings for the reading of papers and the delivery of lectures, and for the acquisition and dissemination of knowledge. It wants to cultivate, develop, and maintain contact and association with institutes, universities, professional bodies, and associations engaged or interested in Islamic activities, and to conduct dialogues and seminars and conferences with local and foreign organizations established with similar objects. Today we hope to launch the Islamic Renaissance Front, and we began with the recitation of the Quran by Brother Muhammad Ismail. Dipersilakan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. ربنا إنك من تدخل النار فقد أخزيته وما للظالمين من أنصار. ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. فاستجاب لهم ربهم أني لا أضيع عمل عامل منكم من ذكر أو أنثى بعضكم من بعض. فالذين هاجروا وأخرجوا من ديارهم وأوذوا في سبيلي وقاتلوا وقتلوا لأكفرن عنهم سيئاتهم ولأدخلنهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار ثوابا حسن الثواب. صدق الله العظيم.
الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعه ونصره ووالاه. Mr. Chairman, respected and esteemed scholar and former rector of International Islamic University, Professor Dr. Muhammad Kamal Hassan, our esteemed guest, Federal Territory Minister, Datuk Raja Nongcik, our honorable guest speaker, Professor Tariq Ramadan, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In Surah Al-Ahzab, verse 72, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded, Inna aradna al-amanata ala as-samawati wal-ardi wal-jibal فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. Verily, we did offer the amanah, the trust of volition and reason, to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they refused to bear it because they were afraid of it. Yet men took it up, for verily he has always been prone to be most wicked, most foolish. The classical commentators give all kinds of laborious explanations to the term amanah or trust occurring in this parable, but the most convincing of them, as proposed by the most learned Allamah Muhammad Asad, are reason or intellect and the faculty of volition, that is the ability to choose between two or more possible causes of action or modes of behavior, and thus to choose between good and evil. This faculty of reason or faculty of discernment is the main thing that is missing from Muslims today. Rather than exercising the faculty of reason or intellect that was bestowed upon them, the faculty that has been elevated to their status above those of celestial beings, as described in Surah Al-Baqarah, the Muslims today tend to be embedded in their blind imitation or taqleed of their predecessors or ulama, whom they consider as infallibles. The New World Order poses new challenges, yet many Muslims are still searching for answers from books written centuries ago, during the time when Hulagu Khan invaded Muslim territories. It is this blind acceptance of scholars' opinions as if they were complete truth, which forms the crux of our concern and the birth of Islamic Renaissance Front. The Quran strongly recommends that Muslims use their faculty of intellect or aqal appropriately. The word aqal can be found in more than 45 verses of the Quran. The Quran encourages us to use aqal, to reflect, to ponder, so that we could derive benefits or maslahah out of it and avoid hardship. The verses that were recited by our Qari, Ustaz Ismail, just now, invite those who are endowed with insight to observe, study, analyze all areas of human knowledge in all its dimensions. The universe is a space that speaks to the mind and heart and reveals the meaning of creation. The heavens and earth, night and day, space and time, testify to the presence and infinite generosity of the one who has laid out the universe like an open book, pervaded with signs offered to people's minds and hearts. The universe just like the written revelation Al-Quran, needs to be approached with the eyes and intelligence of the heart and of the mind. The two revelations echo and mirror each other. The universe, like the text, has its principles, its laws, and its grammar. Human intellect, or akal, must observe these principles and laws and extract their logic and categories in order to take them into account, both in its rational approach to nature and in its management of society. Hence, it is our theme, لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, for people who think, to emphasize the importance of akal, or of reason. As stated time and time again by one of the greatest thinkers in Islamic history, Al-Ustaz Al-Imam Muhammad Abduh, there can be no contradiction between faith and reason. If there appears to be some contradictions between reason and revelation, it should be assumed that one or the other has been incorrectly understood, since they are basically two different means to convey the one divine truth. Real tajdeed, or renewal, and islah, or reform, can only be achieved if we are able to fully utilize our faculty of intellect, or akal. There are certain groups of people within our society that are promoting tajdeed agenda. However, these people who often present themselves as the only true Salafi made a literal and reductionist approach towards the understanding of the Quran and the Sunnah. The contemporary literalist approach fails to give adequate answers to contemporary challenges. These so-called true Salafis fail to make a clear distinction between what is known as al-zawabit, or the immutables, and the al-mutaghayyirat, or the changing. They are more obsessed with returning to the past, back to the time of as-salafus salih, of the pious predecessors, rather than confronting the current issues by exercising the faculty of reason endowed by Allah. Confusion exists between principles and models, between a rule and its form, and this leads to exceedingly rigid and particularly exclusive reductions. Thus, modesty is prescribed to Muslims, but in the eyes of the literalist, only one way of being modest exists: imitating the Prophet, his companions, and the Salaf, and dressing just as they did, with the same clothes, and this is the only possible reference. It can be seen here how the principle of modesty is reduced to its actualization within a specific historical context.